Brooke Logan reclined in the soft, cream-colored armchair of her opulent Los Angeles apartment, the metropolitan skyline reflected in the floor-to-ceiling windows. The morning sun spread golden streaks over the hardwood floors, but the warmth of the light did little to alleviate the frost in her bones. Her hands trembled as she held the phone, the doctor's words replaying in her head like a painful loop. The call had arrived just moments before, bringing with it news that threatened to unravel the carefully woven threads of her existence. She had always been a fighter and a survivor, navigating the treacherous waters of love, treachery, and ambition, but this was different. This was a storm she was not sure she could handle. Her life had always revolved around the bold and the beautiful, a flurry of love, conflict, and high-stakes relationships. Brooke, a key member in the Forrester family's design company, had seen her fair share of scandals, grief, and victory. She had loved deeply, lost severely, and risen from the ashes of her mistakes more than she could remember. However, this news was not about a failed relationship or a business power move. This was personal, visceral, and completely devastating. The doctor's tone had been calm and clinical as he delivered the diagnosis. A rare, aggressive illness that had already begun to take hold in her body. The prognosis was uncertain, but the words limited time and advanced stage struck her heart like a dagger. She placed the phone on the glass coffee table, her fingertips resting on the cool surface as if anchoring herself would make the fact less real. Her thoughts raced, revisiting every detail of her life, her marriages, children, and wars. She remembered Ridge, the guy who had been both her anchor and her storm, their love story woven together with passion and agony. She thought about her children, Hope and RJ, who had matured amidst the devastation of her world. How could she inform them? How could she put them through this? The weight crushed against her chest, making it difficult to breathe. Brooke got up from the chair, her legs shaky, and headed to the window. The city sprawled before her, vivid and active, in stark contrast to the fragility she was feeling. She had always been the strong one, taking on every obstacle front-on, but suddenly she felt powerless and adrift, like a leaf caught in a tempest. She pushed her palm against the glass, and the coolness grounded her for a time. Her image stared back at her, still stunning, still the woman who had captivated hearts and controlled boardrooms, but there was a darkness in her eyes, a worry she couldn't conceal. The penthouse was too quiet, and the solitude accentuated her thoughts. She remembered her sister Donna, who had always been her confidant, and her best friend Katie, who had supported her through every scandal. She remembered Eric, the patriarch of the Forrester family, who had treated her like a daughter, and Steffi, who, despite their strained relationship, had become a powerful ally in recent years. They all deserved to know, but the prospect of informing them filled her with dread. She could already see the sympathy in their eyes, the hushed tones, and the uncomfortable attempts to console. Brooke Logan did not want pity. She wanted to fight, live, and protect the life she had created. The doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. She debated ignoring it and fleeing to the protection of her seclusion, but curiosity overcame her. She walked to the door, her silk robe flowing behind her, and opened it to see Ridge standing there. His expression filled with anxiety. His black eyes met hers, and she realized right away that he'd heard something. Gossip spread quickly in their culture, and even though she had only recently heard the news, someone, perhaps a nurse or a doctor's assistant, had leaked it. "Brooke," he remarked quietly, entering without waiting for an invitation. "Is what I heard true?" She wanted to deny it, dismiss it as just another rumor in their drama-filled existence, but the truth was too weighty to ignore. She nodded, her throat tightening as she searched for the words. "It's true," she said softly, hardly audible. I don't know what to do, Ridge." He crossed the room in 2 strides, taking her into his arms. His embrace was warm and comforting, and for a moment she allowed herself sink into it, allowing the tears she had been fighting back to flood out. "We'll get through this," he stated with a steady voice despite the tremble. "You aren't alone, Brooke. You've never been alone." But even as he held her, she sensed a growing gap between them, not from a lack of love, but from the reality that suddenly loomed over her. She had always been the one to help others, to pick up the pieces when relationships broke down or enterprises failed. Now she was the one who needed to be saved, which terrified her. She drew back, wiped her tears with the back of her palm, and forced a grin. "I don't want anyone to know yet," she explained. "Not Hope, no RJ, no one. I need some time to analyze this." Ridge nodded, but she could see the tension in his eyes. He wanted to defend her and unite the family around her, but he followed her desires. "Whatever you need," he said. "But you cannot keep me out, Brooke. I'm here no matter what." The rest of the day was a blur. Brooke attempted to divert herself with work, poring over concepts for Forrester Creations' next collection, but her thoughts kept returning to the diagnosis. Every decision felt insignificant in light of her mortality. Should she fight with everything she had? Chemotherapy, experimental treatments, and second opinions. Or should she concentrate on making memories with her family and cherishing the time she had left? The questions raced through her thoughts, each one more scary than the last. By dusk, she was in the Forrester estate, surrounded by the people she adored. Eric insisted on a family dinner, a rare opportunity for everyone to be together without the usual tension. Hope was there, as dazzling as ever, talking excitedly about her current endeavor with Forrester's ethical fashion brand. RJ, a rising star in the design field, told anecdotes of his trips, his eyes blazing with determination. Steffi and Finn sat close together, their love a quiet strength in the room, as Liam and Wyatt discussed a new business opportunity with their typical humor. Brooke wanted to freeze this exquisite moment in time, but watching them made her heart hurt. She wanted to protect them from the approaching sorrow. She excused herself and stepped out on the terrace to collect her breath. The night air was cold, and the stars above appeared impossibly distant. She put her arms around herself, attempting to keep her composure as the weight of her secret pushed down on her. "Mom."
Hope's voice broke through her thoughts, and Brooke turned to see her daughter standing in the doorway, a worried expression on her face. "Are you all right?" Brooke forced a grin, stroking a strand of hair away from Hope's face. "I am all right, sweetie." Hope didn't seem convinced, but she nodded and moved closer. "You know you can speak with me, right? About anything." Her daughter's candor almost broke her. Brooke wanted to tell her, to express her anxieties, and to let Hope hug her like she had held her daughter through so many heartaches. But she couldn't. Not yet. Instead, she hugged Hope fiercely, as if she could transfer all of her love and power into that single embrace. "I know," she whispered. "I love you so much." As the night progressed, Brooke found herself withdrawing inward, the sounds of the family receding into the distance. She reflected on her life, the decisions she had made, and the regrets she carried. She had always been a passionate woman, motivated by love and ambition, but now she questioned whether she had done enough. Did she love enough? Had she battled hard enough for the things that were important? The questions gnawed at her, and she realized she couldn't confront them alone. The following morning, Brooke made a decision. She would battle not just for herself, but also for those she loved. She called the doctor and set up a consultation to discuss treatment choices. She contacted a professional in New York, determined to investigate all possibilities. And she started writing letters, not goodbye letters, but letters of love, appreciation, and hope. One for Hope, RJ, Ridge, and everyone who had influenced her life. She poured her heart into each word, knowing that whatever happened, these letters would be her legacy. Days stretched into weeks, and Brooke immersed herself in her fight. She withstood the arduous therapies, the never-ending doctor visits, and the moments of doubt that threatened to swallow her. But she also found joy, quiet mornings with Ridge, laughter with her children, and late-night conversations with Donna and Katie. She began to see her life as a wonderful, chaotic tapestry of love and endurance, rather than a collection of blunders. Ridge joined her on her balcony one evening to watch the sunset, each holding a glass of wine. He gave her one, and they sat in peaceful calm, the city lights glittering below. "You're the strongest person I know," he finally remarked, his voice full with emotion. "Regardless of what happens, Brooke, you have already won." You've lived a life that most people can only dream of." Her eyes welled up with tears, but not of fear or sadness. These were tears of appreciation, love, and acceptance. She stretched for his hand and squeezed it strongly. "I'm not done yet," she remarked with a defiant tone. "I've got more to do, more to love, and more to fight for." And in that moment, Brooke Logan knew that, whatever the future contained, she would confront it with the same zeal that had characterized her life. She was greater than her diagnosis, her mistakes, and the events that had created her world. She was Brooke Logan, and she would fight until the end, not only to survive, but to live fully, fiercely, and unapologetically. Brooke had always assured herself that nothing in life would surprise her anymore. She has faced treachery, heartbreak, scandal, and loss in ways that could fill volumes. Her life had been a tornado of passion and confusion, and she had carried it all with a strength that inspired some while unsettling others. But on this particular day, this quiet afternoon at home, she realized that fate had one last surprise in store for her, one that stung harder than any betrayal from a lover or confrontation with an enemy she had ever experienced. It wasn't about love triangles or rivalry. It was about her son. And no amount of strength could protect her from the weight of the reality that had just arrived in her hands. The envelope was little and modest, laying on the table as an afterthought. For hours, she strolled past it, attempting to ignore it. She had poured herself coffee and let it cool. She picked up a book and stared at the same page for what seemed like an eternity. She had even ventured outside into the garden, allowing the sunlight to touch her skin as if the warmth could soothe the tempest within her. Her gaze was often drawn back to the package. With shaky hands, she finally opened it. The words on the paper were crisp and unyielding. DNA findings. A scientific announcement that eliminated decades of assurance. Brooke read them again, as if the letters could rearrange themselves into something different if she gave them the chance. But no. The truth stayed the same. The kid she had nurtured, the youngster whose skinned knees she had caressed, whose victories she had celebrated, and whose heartbreaks she had comforted, was not truly hers. Not in the way she had previously believed. Her breath froze in her throat as she grabbed the paper, her vision blurred from the tears she had battled to keep back. The world appeared to tilt beneath her, and she staggered to the couch, sliding into the cushions as if they could swallow her whole. 1,000 memories flooded her head, each stabbing her with equal parts love and sorrow. His first cry at the hospital. His little hand had wrapped around her finger. His eyes had brightened up when she went into his school's auditorium to see him perform. The countless evenings when he awoke from nightmares and sought solace in her embrace. She had been his safe haven, anchor, and mother. But what did that imply today? Brooke closed her eyes and tried to control her breathing. Science has a way of making things feel definite and undeniable. Bloodlines, genetics, biology, they were supposed to determine who we were and where we fit. And yet, sitting here, she couldn't reconcile the frigid words on the page with the warmth of the boy she adored with all of her heart. Wasn't love enough? Was it possible to invalidate motherhood with a piece of paper? She remembered all the whispers and misgivings that had lurked in the background of her existence. Questions regarding paternity have circulated at family gatherings and in gossip columns. She had always rejected them, insisting that what was important was her relationship with her son. And she really believed it. But suddenly the whispers had a form. The uncertainties had become facts. And the conviction she had fought so hard to maintain had vanished in an instant. Her phone rang on the table, jolting her out of her reverie. She looked at the television, and her heart twisted. That was him. Her son. The boy who once sat on her lap and told her she was the best mother in the world. The young man who still contacted her for assistance when life became too difficult. The only person whose voice could heal and break her in the same breath. She wanted to respond, to hear his laughing, and to continue pretending that nothing had changed. But how could she, when every word she spoke would be a lie by omission? She let the call go unanswered, tears streaming softly down her cheeks. Guilt gnawed at her like a keen razor. She remembered the expression in his eyes when he found out. Would he despise her? Would he perceive her as a liar, someone who had taken his truth away? Or would he realize that she had always acted out of love, that she had attempted to shield him from a reality that would only give him pain? Brooke got up from the couch and walked the room, holding the paper tightly in her hand. She tried to envisage a future in which their relationship may disintegrate as a result of this discovery. She had endured failed marriages, broken friendships, and violent rivalries. But she wasn't sure she'd be able to exist without him. He was her heart, her reason, and the only constancy she had when the rest of her life fell apart. To lose him would mean losing herself. Her thoughts turned to the past, to the moments she had experienced with him that now seemed terribly fragile. She remembered how on Christmas mornings he would wake her up before dawn, too excited to sleep. She recalled his adolescent years, when he banged doors and rolled his eyes yet always returned to her when he needed someone to lean on. She recalled the evenings she had sat by his bedside while he was sick, murmuring promises that she would never leave him and would always be there. Those pledges were hollow today, shattered by a truth beyond her control. She sunk to her knees and pressed the paper against her chest, as if she could absorb it or rewrite it. Her uncontrollable cries filled the empty room. She sobbed for him, for herself, and for the life they had constructed on what now seemed precarious ground. She grieved for the purity of their link, for the trust that could soon be broken. Even in her anguish, a small voice inside her murmured things that she sorely needed to hear. Love is stronger. Love defines who we are, whereas blood defines where we came from. She repeated it to herself again and over, as if saying it enough times would make it real. He was her son. No test could erase the nights she held him as he cried, the mornings she cheered him on, and the years she gave of herself without reservation. The darkness deepened, with shadows crawling across the room and the stars blinking indifferently outside. Brooke remained on the floor, exhausted but afraid to move, as if standing would compel her to confront the reality she preferred to ignore. She knew tomorrow would arrive and with it options. She would have to decide whether to inform him, to let him live in blissful ignorance, or to confront the unpleasant reality. Either path caused its own kind of damage. Silence would protect him while compromising his right to know. Honesty would put their tie, his love, at jeopardy. Her heart ached from the overwhelming weight of it. She remembered his smile and how he had informed her that she was his hero. She worried if he'd ever say it again after the truth was out. She wondered if he'd still recognize her as his mother, or if he'd see through the ruse. The thought ripped her apart, yet she spoke into the darkness. "You are my son. You will always be my son." The words lingered, delicate but firm, a pledge made against the horror of fate. Brooke clutched to them as if they were lifelines, hoping that when the storm hit, love would be enough to get them through. The night stretched on, each instant filled with sadness and longing, yet she clung to hope. I hope that family was more than biology and ink on a page. I hope that love, in all of its messy, imperfect, and enduring forms, will survive this. Brooke found the fortitude to breathe, to stand, and to face whatever tomorrow had in store for her. Because, no matter what the papers stated or what the rest of the world believed, she knew in her heart that no one could ever take away her reality. He was her son. He'd always been. He always would be.